Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is inspired by a personal experience of mine and mostly it's inspired by my charm bracelets. I bought this when I was around 16, like a decade or more ago, and I never really wore it, even though I bought it, when I was in university, like my first year of university. I never really wore it until recently. And so I was feeling a bit bad a couple of days ago, or maybe a little more than a bit bad. Like, let's say if there's a scale and 10 is extremely bad and 1 is not bad at all, I was at a 7, right? I was feeling really bad and I was struggling with processing this feeling and moving past it, and I was just having a hard time doing that. And I eventually got out of bed and just went through stuff, went through my old stuff, went through my junk, and I found this and I wore it, and it made me feel a bit better. And so that is why today's video is going to be about how to feel a bit better. Because when I felt a bit better, I was able to work with that and process the emotions I was feeling and get to the other parts where I was not feeling as bad. And so a bit better is something that we can work with when we're not feeling so good, and a bit can be so much when you're not feeling so good. And let's be honest, in this world we don't always feel good, right? And the bad feelings can be so overwhelming, and it's so good to have a little bit of help when we are experiencing that. So that's what today's video is going to be about. So just right off the bat, I don't know if that is the right way to say that, but just right off the bat, the first tip I'm going to give is to find something to wear. Dress up. You might not be going anywhere, but just putting on cute things. And I feel like things that make sounds can help, because it really helps, but just dressing up can help when you're feeling bad. And that is today's tip. If you're feeling really bad, it's a bit maybe counterintuitive, right, to ask for someone who is struggling, and feeling really bad to dress up. It doesn't make sense, right? Because you do not even have the energy. But even just donning a piece of jewelry can help you feel a bit good, and a bit can be so much when you're feeling really bad. So that is my first tip for today. Wear something good. My next tip for feeling a bit better would be lighting a candle. For years, our ancestors communed around fires, around bonfires. They communed with one another. They danced. They had all the ceremonies, or they just simply had their dinner around fires. And so, an open flame kind of, has a soothing effect on us. And there have been studies that show all these positive effects of fire. Even just watching videos of fires, and maybe fireplace with all the crackling sounds of the fire and whatnot. There are some studies that have shown it to have positive effects on people, making them more social, even as far as reducing their blood pressures, and maybe we cannot have access to open flames. Maybe we do not even feel like dancing, at that moment in time, or we could light a candle, and it could make us feel just slightly better. And like I said before, feeling just a little bit good, it means a lot when you're feeling really, really bad. And so this brings me to my next point, which is praying. I believe that a huge part of joy, an integral part of being joyful is embracing childlikeness. And I believe that there is a childlikeness about praying, because it feels ridiculous, right? It does sometimes, even as a believer. I believe that sometimes it does feel ridiculous. If you've had any kind of struggles with your faith, if you had moments of doubts, then you know that there are some times when it just feels ridiculous. And this is where we lean into childlikeness, into believing, into hoping. And so, if you are a believer, I think praying is one of the things that you can do to feel a bit good when you're feeling really, really bad. And like I've said before, if you are feeling really, really bad, every little bit of good, every little bit of, joy is important to you in that moment. And it can help you get out of the really, really bad feeling that you're having. And I just wanted to share a little bit of something that helped me when I was going through a really, really tough time. And I remember praying and just feeling like, you know, it, I remember praying and feeling like, this is not going anywhere. I'm not feeling it. I'm not feeling it at all. I'm not feeling it. And I remember that I just had this, realization. I like to say it's the Holy Spirit, but I remember that I just had this voice tell me that the power of prayer is not really in the person who says it, but in the God who is listening. And it just gave me so much peace. And even after that, I still had moments where I struggled with my faith, I struggled with my prayer, but every now and then I remember that the power of prayer doesn't come from me. It comes from God. And so it's the weight of it, you know, the bulk of it, the effect that it has, it doesn't have to come from me. You know, I don't know if that makes sense. But so even though you do not feel like praying in the moment, even though you're not feeling it when you say it, the power of prayer does not come from us, And that's just as much as I would like to share on that matter. Moving on to the next tip. My next tip is singing, you know. The ironic thing is that in order to feel good, we need to do things that people who feel good do, you know. And one of the things that I've noticed about me, and I think it's the same for most people, is that when I'm really, really down, I do not sing, I do not dance, all the things that I do when I'm happy, I do not do them when I'm sad. And that makes sense, right? But the ironic thing is that in order to feel good, in order to alchemize pain or sadness into joy, even the littlest bit of joy, we have to do things that happy people do while we are sad. It doesn't make sense, maybe it does, but yeah, we have to do things that happy people do. And what do they do? So they sing. When you're happy, you're humming, you're singing, you're dancing, and maybe you don't have the strength to dance, but you can sing, you can hum, you can hum, and that can help you move this feeling, that can help you walk through this feeling, that can help you feel even a little bit good. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is getting a warm meal. And of course, this is not like, this is not something that is achievable to everyone, when you're really feeling down, there might be no food in the house, you might not have the energy to cook, but if you can get really simple food. It could be noodles, you could even buy food if you can, I don't know, but I feel like warm meals can help you feel even a little bit good. Sometimes you feel really, really bad, and then you just have a meal and you realize, okay, I was hungry. And no, I'm not, and I just have to clarify at this point that I'm not talking about people. This video does not it's not gonna work for people who are really depressed or struggling through tough emotions. It's not gonna make you magically feel better. So these tips are not they're not magical. Like the title says, it's just to make you feel a little bit good, and the little bit of goodness can be something you can work with. That is what I'm trying to share. So just keep that in mind. So getting food, eat, this reminds me of one of my favorite Bible stories. I like calling all of them one of my favorite Bible stories, but I did not expect this to become a Bible a Bible video. But it's about Elijah. What did God do when he was struggling? God gave him food and he ate, and slept. So just grab a meal, if you can. If you can, it has, like, I like to say that it's you do not you have to plan for those days. Like, what I mean is that nobody wants to be sad. Nobody is trying to attract sadness to them, but it is part of this world. So what you can do is to just stock your house, like stock your kitchen with like easy to make meals like noodles. You can throw in some onion to have some health food in there, and or there's one of my favorite foods that I like to eat when it's really cold or I'm really down. It's pepper soup. It's really easy to make, and it's one of our favorite meals. If you're watching from somewhere that is not Nigeria, it's one of my favorite meals. And it's very easy to make. It's literally just boiling a meat, in pepper sauce, and putting some, fragrant herbs. So that is it, and that is all that I can share for today. And I really hope that this helps you when you're feeling a little bit down to feel even just a little bit better. And I just wanted to share that even though you might be watching this when you're feeling bad, I just want you to know that it gets better. And the clouds will not always, they will not always stay. It's not always going to be dark. It's not always going to be horrible. It's not always going to feel this way. The sun is going to rise again. And I'm so emotional because I feel like I'm also saying this to myself. It's not always going to be dark. And so thank you so much for watching. And I hope you have a wonderful day or night whenever you're watching. If you would like to see more of this, please let me know. And I will try to come up with more tips that have helped me. See you in the next video.